Welcome, one and all, to the segment. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm seeing the word live on my screen. Wait, live? That could only mean one thing. That your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, the people's choice, the best of all time is back in the saddle, baby. Woo! It's your boy, one and only Brother Carter, welcoming you to episode 232. Thank you. Of the podcast that hoots. Your boy, Brother Carter, Derek Stoughton, is back. He is back, and he is here live and in living color. So glad to be back hosting this edition. Yes. Though I have to say, we'll get into that here in a minute. I almost think it's time to retire that, Josh, based upon what we've seen out of the nefarious one over the last few. So it might be time to retire that. And not give its due, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. But I am thrilled to be back live on the Hoots podcast this week. I had some time. I was able to get into my schedule this week and able to be on making a one-time appearance because we've got a pretty big pay-per-view coming up this weekend, and I figured it was time to talk about it live in person with my brother. And I'd like to pass things off to him right now, ladies and gentlemen. He is the host of the Hoots podcast. He is number one both in wrestling podcasts and in your hearts. It is the one and only nefarious Brother Adam, Josh Lopez. Josh, what's going on, my friend?
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Hope you guys are in good spirits. We're about a week away from the domestic version of Thanksgiving, where we will not be joining at the hip as we usually would on these occasions. Hope everybody's in good spirits and good health as well. And welcome to the show, everybody. As always, this is your first time watching or listening to the show. Make sure to smash that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. It comes to you free of charge every single week on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere you get your podcast from. As Brother Carter mentioned, I do these podcasts very frequently and very consistent with it. And it's not just on my own end. Brother Carter brings in a lot of the great elements to what makes the Hoots podcast what it is, especially our baby, our award-winning segment.
Josh, I'm telling you,
it hasn't even been nominated, and we already got an award for it.
I'm telling you, man. Once people get a hold of what we're doing, I'm telling you, it's going to become the flagship segment of all wrestling podcasts.
Well, here's the funny thing. This segment started when we were actually doing shows like this about 4 months ago. So this could be a trip today. So I am referring to What the Hell is Wrong with AEW. And we'll get to that later on. But we got a lot to get to. And as tradition, and when Brett Carter comes out for pay-per-view shows, I give him the duty of running the ship, if you will, keeping the rig on road, unlike Excalibur, and we're gonna have some fun today. So we're gonna get to our regular segments as we usually do, but a little different. I don't think we're doing this week in WWE just because we got the Survivor Series pay-per-view at the end, so we had to make predictions for that. So not to kill any more time, Brett Carter, the floor is yours, my man.
Thank you, my friend. But first, Josh, how you doing? I mean, I feel like you and I haven't had a chance. I know we got to get through some stuff today, but I just want to find out how you're doing. You and I haven't had a chance to chat in person in a while, so just want to know how you're doing. How's life?
Life is pretty good in a lot of ways. I've been really doing a lot of like self reflecting and a lot of evaluation of myself, more importantly, over the last couple of months, and taking a step back on a couple things. And the drill with me, I'm always one step away from removing bad energy,
right?
And I've been really focusing on that and mental health, more importantly.
Absolutely.
And I honestly I feel like I'm at peace. Like I really don't feel like there's any weight on my shoulder. Do I feel nervous at times leaving the house because we don't even know where this virus is going to hit me or if it doesn't. So that kind of sucks. We're 8 months into this and I'm starting to feel fatigue in a way. And it's a little different for me because like I always been a loner away, so being at home really didn't bother me. But there's also an element of me when I needed escape out of Chicago, and I don't know the next side that's going to be the case. So that's been a little bit frustrating, but
sure,
things professionally going well. I'm really happy with the success of the show. I'm happy, more importantly, with the success of the website and just the feedback and the numbers I'm in getting for the website, which is really humbling. And, I'm just really excited for what 2021 has in store for us. And I keep saying that this has been our most successful year as a podcast. And the sky's the limit. So life is good, man.
That's great.
It's great when you're in good spirits where you don't have women fracturing your heart.
That's right. Absolutely. By the way, if you have not done so already, the website that Josh is referring to is prowrestlingtranscriptions.com, which everybody should go out and bookmark. That's where your number one stop shop and source for all. If you ever missed a show, Brother Adam's got you covered. He's got you covered. So, we want to start today with the Good Brother Q&A session, and we've got some wonderful questions that have come in over this past week, and I want to get to them. And the first set of questions is from Chris Zuleta. I hope I'm saying that right.
Zuleta. Yep.
Zuleta. I'm sorry. You can follow him at XTeamZuleta24X. And this is an interesting first question, Josh. We're going to get into some non-wrestling sports news. He says, Matt Nagy or Jim Harbaugh? And as the Chicago Bears aficionado on this show, I'm going to start with you, Josh. Matt Nagy or Jim Harbaugh? And I don't know what he means by that, if he means like who's the better coach, who's in more trouble, because I think both of them are actually in trouble, but that's just me. But go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, there's many ways we could go about with this question. My answer may surprise some people. I'm going with Matt Nagy. I think Jim Harbaugh's reputation is highly overrated. When he got hired by Michigan, I was not convinced they were going to become some college powerhouse, and that wasn't the case. I'm not even the biggest college football fan, but I know for having sustainable success, you got to beat your rivals in your leagues. And when you continue to get your ass embarrassed by Ohio State or Michigan State or whoever the team is, it's just not a good look on you. So, and I have a lot of issues with Matt Nagy. As a guy who's supposed to be a leader of men, when you take the actual leader of the football team out because you're getting peer pressure by Chicago sports radio hosts, I think that's a problem. And whether they meant it in the locker room or not, it permeated through there because there's no way that a guy with you as the head coach combined before Mitch got benched was 20-10 as a starter. But you had to bring in your guy who's just assistant quarterback, and he's got ALR wounds, and we're going to the Super Bowl. Here we are, Brett Carter. It's Thursday. It's November 19th, and my Chicago Bears are 5-5 because we got to run this stupid-ass system for a guy that's not even an offensive genius.
Didn't they start 5-0?
They started 5-1.
5-1, yeah. They were saying the Bears were legitimate Super Bowl contenders, like the way things were going after week 6.
I would rather take the one loss that was going to happen in Atlanta. We get it. Quarterbacks have bad games. It is what it is. Right. I would take that and see where this season went instead of having Nick Foles in. And here's the thing. I've been consistent with this. I don't have a personal issue with Nick Foles. I think he's a good player, but I feel like too many people in the media in the city of Chicago are so hell-bent on proving that they're right on their stance on Mr. Trubisky and trying to make him out as he's the worst quarterback of all time. When you actually watch him play and other quarterbacks that are not in the top 10, it's really not what you think it is. And when you have a guy like Nick Foles who got benched for Gardner Minshew last season, I'm really supposed to be convinced that he's going to be the lightning and shining armor for the day. So I'm going with Matt Nagy. It's not even close.
Cool. I'm actually going to say Jim Harbaugh, and here's why. First off, there is no doubt that Jim Harbaugh is in trouble, and I will not be shocked if he gets fired at the end of this year.
Yeah.
That being said, I actually think Jim Harbaugh is a better NFL coach than he is a collegiate coach. Now, I understand why he got hired at Michigan, because Michigan needed a big name hire to excite the fan base again. Yeah. And I mean, you can say Jim Harbaugh, he's taken a team to the Super Bowl. He's had success at the collegiate level. He was very successful in Stanford. He was very successful with the 49ers. I actually don't think the 49ers should have fired him, but that's another topic for another time. I think when the chips are on the line, and you need somebody that can get it done. Jim Harbaugh has proven to have success in the NFL over a long period of time. So I actually think what's going to happen is once he gets canned in Michigan, or he relieves on his own accord, when another NFL opportunity comes up, I actually think he's going to go back to the NFL and be a head coach in the NFL and could have success there. Now, again, nothing. You can't argue what's happening in Michigan. He's 0-6 against Ohio State. They just got beat by Michigan State, who is near the bottom of the Big Ten this year. Brutal. They just got trounced by Wisconsin, 48-11, I believe the score was. Like, things ain't pretty in Ann Arbor right now. But because of Harbaugh, I think, being more successful in the NFL, I'm going to take Jim Harbaugh.
What's next on the list, my man?
Next question. Ooh, here's an interesting one. Another one I'm going to pass off to you, Josh. Okay. Should the Bulls try to trade for James Harden?
No shot. As an NBA watcher of the NBA, I think James Harden's the most overrated basketball player in the NBA. He reminds me a lot of Matt Stafford, a guy that pads a lot of stats and you need an APV, as Stephen A would say. You need to put an APV out for him because he's nowhere to be found in the playoffs. And James Harden's a talented player, but with the way the team is currently constructed, and we have this new rebuild and a new head coach, James Harden's not going to change the situation here. So I would say no.
No, I would agree with you, and I think Harden would end up becoming a problem in the locker room because he wants to. Harden knows that at his best, he is an elite level talent. Like, he is one of the top. When he's on his best, he's one of the best players in the game. There's no question about it. Yeah. When you come into a Bulls franchise, which, let's be face it, the Bulls haven't been relevant since Michael Jordan was, and since they were having the dynasty. And I'm sorry to say that, Josh, is a Chicago fan, but
you're not saying anything that's not true.
Right. So so Harden's going to come in, and he's going to try to build up all of these younger players, but that would be a 2, 3, 4, 5 year process. And Harden wants to win a chip now. Like, that's why he doesn't think he can get along with Russell Westbrook, wants to get out of Houston. Again, they say he's going to go to Brooklyn, but I'm like, what is Brooklyn going to give up to get James Harden? Like, you can't give up a ton of draft picks, and because they need somebody like Kyrie or somebody of that, or they were talking about a 3-way deal, but you need something of equal value to James Harden right now in Houston, because Houston just got a new coach, in Stephen Silas. And so, he's got to do something in order to keep that team stable. So I think it's a bad idea as well, but good discussion. Thoughts on the War Games announcement? William Regal announced last night on NXT that it looks like we're getting the Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee stable inside of War Games. Josh, what do you think?
I love it. I've always been a fan of War Games. Getting to watch them for the first time in person last year during Survivor Series weekend was really cool. Again, to see the first ever women's War Games match was really special. They also announced that it would be Team Candice LeRae versus Team Shotzi Blackheart in a War Games match as well. So, my initial thoughts was that I was surprised that they're able to fit a War Game structure inside a Capitol Wrestling Center. That's my first thought. But I love the event. I love the match. I love the history of it. I always love hearing Willie Regal come out and say, War Games. Like, you go watch the video of him announcing, it's just awesome. I've been a big advocate of what Pat McAfee's been doing in the WWE. He's just an old school heel, and the group we have, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch and Pete Dunne, they've been doing a lot of good stuff. Having the Undisputed Era being like the standard bearers in a way of NXT. Their match makes sense. That should be a barn burner. And NXT's women's division is absolutely spectacular. So I can't wait to see who will be actually in that particular match for the women's match. So I'm excited for it. What about you?
I love it. And obviously, much like you, I love the concept of War Games. I think that the War Games match, NXT has brought that back and done a great job with it over the past few years. Undisputed Era has been in War Games before, so it's familiar to them.
Yeah.
And I think that they can help, not necessarily coach, but they can kind of help with the flow of the match with Pat McAfee's stable. And I agree with you 100%. I think Pat McAfee was born to be a WWE superstar. Some people could argue he's one of the best heels in professional wrestling right now.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's saying a lot as an NFL guy. By the way, if you also haven't seen Pat McAfee on College Game Day on Saturdays, it's hilarious. He's great. He's got the toy hammer. Him and Chris the Bear Felica always get into it. It's great.
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited too. And same with the women's match, Josh. I'm starting to think, and I've thought this for a little while, that the best women's division in wrestling, for all of professional wrestling, is in NXT. Not necessarily from a talent, like from the top of the card, but the depth of it and how well they are used on television every week. So I'm very excited about it. I think both matches are going to be terrific. We're going to get into this, I'm sure, when we get into our predictions, but does The Miz cash in at Survivor Series?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But I am happy that he is Mr. Mighty Big, and I know we got a question later on from Sam regarding The Miz, which we'll get into in a couple of minutes as well. So,
but again, we'll get into that more a little bit later, but I don't think he's going to cash in. I think they're going to save it for a little bit later.
Picture if he cashed it in on Roman Reigns, though, the heat you would get. Oh, my God.
Well, we'll get into that. Well, because I don't think that would work, though, because that would just 100% kill Reigns' gimmick right now. I just not
unless somebody comes out and lays out Roman Reigns after the match is over.
But who would that be? No. Don't even get into that crap with me. Don't even get started with me on him.
Come on, man.
I haven't been on the show in 3 months, Josh. We're not getting into that. For those of you that did not see, if you're listening to this via audio, Josh did the cross arm things representing his straight edge savior, CM Punk, who I can't stand. But anyways, we'll get into that. Okay, next question. Josh, I kind of feel like we're doing universal chatter again. And now let's get to some questions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
This is throwback Thursday.
I love it. I love it. Here's a good one. And you and I, Josh, talked a little bit about this via chatting earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Where does Zelina Vega end up next? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. I was just going to say, I think there's a possibility that she could wind up maybe in AEW, but from my point of view, I think she'll work better in Impact Wrestling. I think as much as we really hype up the women's division in NXT, I don't think the Knockouts division in Impact get enough credit. And as a guy who covers the brand each week, they bring out better matches consistently in programs in Impact than the men do. And I think Zelina would be a good fit there. Obviously, that's the big topic outside of the ring this week with her getting releases, which is unfortunate. I've made my stance pretty clear on social media in the fact that as talents, even if you're an independent contractor, you need to read the contracts that you signed into. Let's say I got a producer job at ESPN 1000, right? But I'm not on full-time salary. Let's say I'm a part-time board operator and I have a podcast inside on the ESPN app. I know before signing that contract that I can't do this show anymore. I'm speaking as an independent contractor because I am one. I have 3 sources of income. I have this show, I have my website, and then working at my uncle's tattoo shop. I have my own business. So if I got signed and I'm not a full-time employee for ESPN or Good Carter Brands here in Chicago, which is a corporate brand, I know that I would not be able to make money on my own end doing this show. And for better or for worse, whether it's right or wrong, you are a representative of a wrestling company. I understand she's not showing her tits and all this extra stuff on OnlyFans. I have no issue with talents that want to do stuff on Twitch or OnlyFans or YouTube channels or anything like that. But also you have to understand that WWE is not a mom and pop shop wrestling company. They have stockholders, they have business people that they deal with. So anything that you do on your platform while you're still under contract them is a reflection of them as a company. And I get it. We want to paint WWE as the bad evil company in the world of professional wrestling. But I don't think a lot of people understand how corporate entertainment business works. And especially when you have two marquee shows represented by two major network conglomerates, there's just a lot that goes into the infrastructure than just what we see in the ring or cutting promos. I know we live in a narrow-minded mindset when it comes to how wrestling should be handled business-wise, but that's the reason why we're not in the boardrooms and we never worked in the wrestling business in the first place. So wherever she goes, she's talented. She's amazing. I loved what she did in the ring over the last couple weeks before she got released, for her to get an opportunity and stuff like that. But it's not me picking sides. It's just understanding business. It's different. Yeah, you go to AEW, they have nothing to lose. They have no infrastructure. All they got is the TNT deal. They're not a publicly traded company. It's just two totally different dynamics.
This is tough for me, Josh. And I actually think Zelina Vega is going to end up in AEW because AEW is going to pay her a ton of money to come over there and bash WWE. I mean, let's just be real. Like,
it'll be on the contract before she
absolutely. She's not going to take a huge payday, be there for a little while. Then when the company folds, she'll end up in another wrestling promotion, because I agree with you. I think that she's incredibly talented. I think that what she was doing when she was in NXT, being alongside Andrade, Cien Almas, and then eventually coming up to the main roster, she did a great job with them. I agree with you. I thought she had great matches with Asuka when she got the challenge for the Raw Women's Championship. So no doubt she's talented in the ring, talented on the mic. She will find a place in the wrestling world, no doubt. I understand, and I actually you've kind of turned me on this based on your argument just now. Saying that anything that she does outside of WWE is a reflection of WWE. It's like if you're a part of, if you're hired by if you're hired by a company, right, and you go out and get arrested, like let's say you're a teacher, right, and you go out and get arrested for doing drugs, like the school board's going to fire you. I mean, that was completely separate from your duties. You could be a teacher of the year, but if you went out and did something completely independent of that, but it is a reflection of the school, you're going to get fired, right? Same thing if you work at a company, a lot of times you're going to get fired. So I understand that side of it. However, for me, it's the two things I think about is, number one, we're in a global pandemic, and let's be real. A lot of these wrestlers' incomes have been cut down because they don't get cuts from live events, especially now if reports come if there's been reports, if they're true, that WWE will no longer do live events once the pandemic is over, because they're not making enough money on live events to for the effort that they get into it. Right. So that could reduce the amount of money that the talent is making. So if they need to find secondary sources of income to support themselves, like I understand that it's the business versus trying to, feed your family and live the lifestyle that you want to live. So that's, plus if they're not using their WWE name, like she's not Zelina Vega. I think she's Iota on YouTube or something like that when she does that. Adam Cole is Chugs. AJ Styles, when he was doing it, was the Styles. That's a little different because Styles is in the name, but Adam Cole he just refers himself as the Chugs. So that's nothing to do with his wrestling name when he's doing it. So
I just got a funny comment in the chat box from B-Rob. He said titty meat.
I love how we're trying to have this philosophical discussion and B-Rob. Again, see, this is what I'm saying again with B-Rob. What kind of honey does he make? I don't think his honey is very good. B-Rob. What kind of a name is that? Because I think his honey sucks. He's still on the list. But anyways, B-Rob, love you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Hope I get to see you again soon. I get this. plus the last thing I'll say, Josh, and then I know we need to move on from this, is that it could also be seen as another way to connect with fans. And like if they feel like they can develop more of a connection with their fan base, because it's much easier to talk to people in real time via Twitch, to actually have that connection with the fans. So I see both sides of the argument in this, but if we're answering the question, I think Zelina Vega is going to end up in AEW because they're going to pay her a ton of money.
By the way, the first thing that comes out of your mouth of what AEW could do for you as a talent is you acting like a bitter ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. That's just really stupid business, in my opinion. But by the way, yes, Rob, you are the bee's knees. Yes.
Very good. I'll buy that. Josh, I think it says something about a wrestling promotion when the name of the wrestling promotion includes a faction. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is AEW rushing the Moxley Omega match, or do you think it ties into Moxley appearing at Wrestle Kingdom schedule-wise?
Well, the first thing I need to say is I don't know why JR is hyping up December 2nd like it's the biggest wrestling show of the year. Winter is coming. This is going to be the biggest Dynamite ever. I'm going to mention this later on when we do our segment, but I would buy into that marketing, if you will, if you didn't say that about your every other week show coming. That you hear it a gazillion times. Oh, this could be quite possibly the best AEW Dynamite lineup we ever had. And the problem is it goes to square one. The promoter of the company is a Wrestling Observer mark. It tells you everything you need to know. So, of course they're rushing it. They rushed Jon Moxley and Brody Lee. They rushed Jon Moxley and Brian Cage, even though Brian Cage made his debut and attacked Darby Allin, but he gets a title match with Jon Moxley at Bash's Beach, which makes no sense. And then they rushed poor Eddie Kingston. When's the last time Eddie wrestled? Now he's just doing guest commentary appearances. So, of course, they're rushing it.
Absolutely. I agree with it, too. The only difference is, Josh, I think Kenny Omega is going to win the world title on December.
NBA, fucking motherfucker.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks there, Jimmy. But I agree with you. I think the rush. How long have they built this feud? They really haven't even built it because they were going to do a contract signing this week. Moxley gets taken out backstage after cutting another good promo, actually. And I actually think his promo work has been great. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But
yeah,
no, of course they haven't built this up. And are they going to tie it into Wrestle Kingdom? I mean, Josh, would more know about that than I would. But I would say they're probably going to talk about that a lot, I would think.
Maybe you expect Moxley to have an appearance at Wrestle Kingdom because he's supposed to fight Kenta. Moxley is the current IWGP US Heavyweight Champion in New Japan. But by the way, congratulations really quick to Mox and Renee for having a baby. But I don't know how far Renee is out under pregnancy. So it's not something where, Mox immediately has to lose just because he made the announcement. I don't have no idea how far away Renee is from pregnancy. So it'd be saying like, Becky made her announcement, then you don't see Seth on TV for multiple months. He was still there.
Right.
So, it's just interesting, but man, I can't wait to the best part about our segment is not even the rant we go on, it's the jingle right at the beginning of the segment.
I don't feel like we need to play now. We're gonna wait. We're gonna make the people wait. We're gonna make the people wait for the jingle.
They have no feud. Basically, their feud is that they had a outlaw mud show in Baltimore. They had a lights out mud show at Full Gears last year. That's their storyline. Ooh, we're supposed to be scared because we got the PWI #1 wrestler in my ass. Get out of here.
It's ridiculous.
Brother Carter, what's the next question, if you will?
Let's move on. Yeah, I agree. Your favorite Survivor Series? I don't know if it means the match, if it means your favorite Survivor Series match, or your favorite series event of all time. And I'll go with you on this. I'll start with you on this one.
For me, it's either 2006 or 2001. Nice. Maybe I can mix in 2005 as well because that one's an underrated Survivor Series from Detroit. The reason I say that, I remember it was Raw versus SmackDown. Fortunately, they were coming out the heels with the Eddie passing, and it was just a very emotional pay-per-view. And then remember when Undertaker came out with the casket at the end? You remember that? So that one really stands with me. So I'll say either 2001 or 2006. Those are the ones that stand out to me.
Was 2001 the Invasion one as well?
Yes, that was the end of the Invasion. Yep.
That one's up there for sure because there was a real feel to that one. I actually liked 2016 because the Goldberg's return was like, I will admit I popped hard when he beat Lesnar in a short amount of time. Like that was awesome. And the crowd went nuts for it too. Like, and I don't know if you've seen the Paul Heyman interview about that when he's talked about this and he's like, you know, could anybody else have been in the ring with Brock Lesnar for 90 seconds besides Goldberg? And the answer is no. You know, so that one I really liked. The 01 I really liked too. You would say 97 just because of the history behind it, but there's been some great ones over the years. We'll get into this one soon. I think this one's going to be very, very, very special as well, which we're going to get into when we get into our predictions. I'm not even going to do the broken thing anymore because, quite frankly, I don't think he deserves it anymore. But that's just that's just me. And then our final question from Chris this week is the best Survivor Series team ever put together.
Say that one more time.
The best Survivor Series team that's ever been put together.
Oh man, that's a great one. I mean, hell, look at the one from 2001 where you had The Rock, Undertaker, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Kurt Angle.
That's actually the same one that I was thinking of. I mean, 5 Hall of Famers. Like that's awesome.
I remember for 2000 and I mean, look at last year's men's Survivor Series match. You had on SmackDown was Roman, King Corbin, Ali. I think somebody else is in it. There was remember Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. That match was insane. There's so many Survivor Series teams. Try to figure out the top end. We'll be here for hours trying to mention them. But yeah, I still go back to 2001. You can't top that list.
That's awesome. Very good. All right. Thank you, Chris, for the questions. Let's move on. Our good friend, Nate the Great at Psycho N-I-G-Giri. Psycho N-I-G-I-R-I. Yes. Thank you very much, Nate, for your questions. Josh, I'll start this one with you. What are your thoughts on Sami Callihan, and should he be the next Impact World Champion?
I like Sami Callihan. I like that he bet on himself and made a name for himself after things didn't work out in NXT. He's definitely one of the few reasons to watch Impact every week. He's doing a little more of a hacker gimmick this time. And the thing is with Impact is I think they're booking at times that Sami has been hit and miss. He was the world champion before, but it just seems like whenever like a babyface starts getting momentum, that's when they drop in Sami and he just loses. Mm-hmm. So when I see Sami come out and attack Rich Swann, even though I know they have a history with each other, it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't like, oh my God, I should be scared now. And that's unfortunate. Of course, I'd love to see Sami Callihan as a champion, but right now, with Rich Swann just becoming the champion at Bound for Glory, I don't think that would be a good decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. The little bit I have seen of Sami Callihan, I'm very impressed by him. I'm also thrilled for Rich Swann that he's getting a chance to be the face of Impact. As you know, if you think about it, you know, in context, he won the championship at the company's biggest events of the year. So, like, Impact Wrestling is all in on Rich Swann, and I'm happy for him, and I'm excited, and I hope that he has a long and prosperous run. I definitely think we'll see Sami Callihan as Impact World Champion one day, but not right now. And go ahead.
No, I was going to mention, we're mentioning that you are kind of putting the brother Nero lingo to the side. Our good brother Rob was mentioning to me that Matt Hardy's on his go the home list now.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially. I don't know if you've heard the Jim Cornette where they got the email about what is happening backstage. Like,
it's not a good look on Tony Khan.
No, well, shocker. Ooh, here's a good one. I think it's a good question, but I don't know. Well. How do you think WWE can fix their tag team division problem? First question, does WWE have a tag team division problem?
Well, That's a very layered question. Are you just specifically talking about Raw or SmackDown? Because NXT UK has a tag division, NXT has a tag team division. I get it. Raw, SmackDown are the two like pillars of the company, so that's what gets the most volume and attention. In a way, it doesn't really bother me that much that WWE doesn't pay a spotlight on tag divisions, because you always have that one quirk about every company that's out there, right?
Right.
For me as a wrestling fan, I wouldn't want every wrestling company to feel the same and have the same emphasis on certain things. Like, I like tag team wrestling. It's not the end all be all, because when you look at AEW and they hype up tag team wrestling, first off, the refs don't know how to properly officiate a tag team match. And
Darby Edwards was horrible again this week.
The match layouts make no sense. So, and then you look at Impact. I think, in my opinion, Impact has the best tag team division, not only men, but female in wrestling. So it's just all what you want to consume. What would I do to like fix it or change it up? When you have this much hour of television content, or maybe if you got a network, do a network special where you do it once a week and you kind of have it like New Japan, what they're doing right now with the World Tag League. Have a round robin tournament. You get 10 teams together. They all fight each other. The final two teams fight each other in finals for the championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. You can do a lot of things. You can do even a G1
sure.
of tag teams. What would you do, Brother Carter?
Well, here's the problem, I think, Josh. The tag team division in WWE is just inconsistent, I think, because, you have some of these tag teams that are just thrown together and put together in these like 3 or 4 minute matches because you need something for them to do on the show. But then you have a match from this past Raw with the Hurt Business and the New Day, which was unbelievable. Like, it was really good. So then you have those kind of things. And then you have teams like the Street Profits, who you put I think the Street Profits versus the New Day this weekend could be a match that it could steal the show. I think it's going to be a terrific match this weekend. So I'm very excited about that. So, and then again, like Josh, you said, you have like the grizzled young veterans. You have, these incredible teams. You're right. You've got these teams in NXT UK. I think Breezango is very entertaining. I think Undisputed Era is very entertaining. I think Danny Lorcan and Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, are very talented. I mean, you've got talent. It's inconsistent. I will say that the women's tag team division in WWE is struggling a bit. I think because the problem is you don't really have any viable competition.
Well,
who are legit?
That's the problem of a brand split, though, when you don't have the necessary talent to fight each other every week like you would need to. So it's up there. I mean, it is, like you said, it's very inconsistent in a lot of ways. But I definitely say, like, check out, if you want like good tag team action from WWE, like check out NXT and NXT UK.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great. So we'll see what happens, but thank you. That's a good question for sure. Next question. What are 3 feuds you'd like to see come WrestleMania?
Oh man, that's a good one.
I would like to see Alexa Bliss versus Asuka.
Okay.
Because I think that could be, I think Alexa Bliss is positioning herself to be the top of the women's division right now. So I'd like to see that. I think that would be great. I'd like to see Kevin Owens versus The Fiend. I think the psychology of that could be incredible. Because KO knows how to manipulate. He knows how to not be intimidated. And we saw a glimpse of that right around there as when they were doing the draft, and then the two of them face each other on SmackDown. Yeah. I would love to see that. I think that would be great. Then the other one, and I know, Josh, you and I disagree on this one big time. I want to see Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, with Brock Lesnar as the underdog. And I think that, they can build up Roman Reigns to be this unstoppable heel machine. And I've said this before on the Thoughts of Jericho. The only challengers to Roman Reigns right now are on Raw. I think there's nobody on SmackDown that can compete with Roman Reigns right now. In the ring, obviously they can, but from a character standpoint, there's no one that can do it. And this is going to set up an inevitable feud between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, with Brock Lesnar as the underdog. And I think I would love to see that at Mania. And I think those are the three that I'd love to see.
My three, I have two from SmackDown and one from Raw. So the first one for me would be Seth Rollins versus Daniel Bryan. Mm-hmm. And this would be Bryan's send-off, because I don't think he's going to be wrestling much longer. So if you can do something where Seth Rollins starts targeting Bryan's family, I just think him and Bryan have never had an actual feud with each other. And Brother Carr, you know how I feel about the Messiah and stuff. So I just think it would be like some really good old school baby face versus heel dynamics there. I think would work out. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair would be my second one from SmackDown. And then lastly, I think for me, when it comes to Raw, I would like to see Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles hook it up at WrestleMania, if Drew is still the champion by then. By the way, we don't have to get into this, but I have to say this since we're on the show right now. Like, me personally, I do not understand the hate that Drew McIntyre has been getting recently on wrestling Twitter. I don't get it. I don't know where it stems from. A guy that was an internet darling when he came back from Impact and being fired, and now because he's a babyface and he's being, look, I love Randy Orton and everything he's doing right now, but now because Drew's the babyface and now has to assume the role of, oh, this is the guy we just had to hate now. I'm so tired of that crap, bro. I really am. The stuff that happened with Roman Reigns was unnecessary. What happened to Seth Rollins last year was embarrassing. I get it. You don't do DQs and Hell in a Cell matches, but you don't ruin somebody's momentum like that. It's I don't know. What do you think about that?
What has Drew McIntyre done to deserve this? I think he's actually an excellent babyface. You know, he's one of those guys that can do both really well.
Right.
Like, there's some guys that, like Randy Orton, like, he tried as a face and it was okay, I guess. Yeah. But he's way better as a heel. Bray Wyatt, way better as a heel. There are just some wrestlers. Kevin Owens, he's trying to be a face, and it's fine, you know. But Kevin Owens as a heel was unbelievable.
Right.
But Drew McIntyre can do both. Roman Reigns can do both. John Cena can only be a babyface, but that's neither here nor there. But
right.
I think, and Josh, I've said this before, I think Wrestler of the Year needs to be Drew McIntyre, 100%, because he carried the company through. He got his WrestleMania moment taken away because of a pandemic, and he has carried himself like the ultimate professional and has done a hell of a job. He's my Wrestler of the Year 2020, no question.
It's not even close. When you have a guy that steps up like that in a big pressure situation, especially when Roman, the top guy of the company, decides to go on a hiatus, and rightfully so. I'm not begrudging Roman for that decision, but just think about it. We're having Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre on Survivor Series this weekend, and people are butthurt because we're not getting Roman and Randy. Like, come on now.
I know, ridiculous. I think that's going to be a better match. No, because you know who to cheer. You know who to cheer for, right? So it's great. What is Matt Riddle's ceiling in WWE? I'll start on this one. I think they need to put the mat back. He's not just Riddle. That's stupid. That is freaking stupid. Yeah. He is Matt Riddle, right? Put the mat back in, Vince. Come on. I know, and I'm sure he's listening to this pay-per-view and is going to give a damn. But put Matt back in there. I think the sky's the limit for Matt Riddle. I think he's world championship potential, great in the ring, good luck, connects with the fans. I've been a huge Matt Riddle fan from the very beginning. So I think he's world championship material. I
had this rule ever since they cut out certain names. I remember when it was Alexander Rusev. You remember that for that switch? I just had that rule when it comes to like transferring articles. I'm just writing the name. I'm not getting charged for, oh, you typed in Matt Riddle, I'm going to be in trouble. I keep putting Mustafa Ali before they gave him his name.
He is Mustafa Ali. He is Buddy Murphy. Like, it's Murphy. That's stupid. Rusev worked because of his gimmick.
Yeah.
I think that was okay. Cesaro,
it's fine.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. Sheamus, of course, is fine, but no. It's Matt Riddle. It's not. It's because, and it's also because Riddle is an English word, like and has different. So, anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, as long as he's not the Riddler, then we're fine. We're making grounds.
Right.
As far as this question, that's a good one because I think Matt Riddle's ceiling is what he makes of it. I don't think it's really something that WWE is responsible for. When you have a guy who has a track record of smoking weed and doing drugs and stuff like that, and a guy that's had issues in the past working in UFC, you just never know. I think Matt has simmered down in a lot of ways over the last couple of years, and he's a great performer. I love transcribing his matches. He's very talented, and rightfully so deserves a spot in the Raw Men's Team and Survivor Series. He could be a world champion. I just think when you talk about ceiling, it's on him to determine that fate for him.
Right. Agreed. I'm not sure what this next question, what he's trying to mean by this next question, Josh. It says, what do you think New Japan Pro Wrestling could learn New Japan Pro Wrestling? I'm not sure what.
I think he was meaning what could WWE can learn from.
I see. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. What do you think WWE could learn from New Japan Pro Wrestling? Josh?
Well, just going back to what we mentioned a couple minutes ago about tags and stuff like that. When you have a stretch where a certain division is feeling stale or you don't have a personal grudge feud in it, don't be so it's team wrestling. We're not wrestling. We're not wrestling. Like, Kevin Dunn, please. You're 80 years old. Get out of the production truck, please, for the love of God.
Except for he can produce Ms. and Mrs. because he's doing a good job with that.
Yes, that's very true. We're not wrestling. But still, if you have a division that stales out during a certain period of time of the year, it's okay to do a tournament. That doesn't mean you have to do King of the Ring every time for it to be classified as a tournament. And I just think when you have a wrestling TV model, it's kind of harder to do tag tournaments. So implement your network so you don't have commercial breaks. Carve some time out. You guys still have the Thunderdome. You still can use it. Wherever the time of the year is, carve out time, make a round-robin tournament of people in certain divisions, and do it like that. And look, New Japan's not its fault. It's not perfect. I think they rely too much on having too many tag matches on their show because they're not a television distribution company. So they just do events. They don't do TV shows. So their story and their booking process is way, way different from what WWE does. So they're allowed to have longer term stories and congruency and all the buzzwords you hear all the time with these shows. So there's things they can learn from them, but I'd say embrace having tournaments if your divisions are stalling out during a certain time of year. And it's just bound to happen with the fact you have a 52-week television show every year. It's not always going to be hot depending on what the division is. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, that's great. And I have nothing really to add because I don't follow New Japan as closely as you do. So
yeah,
I think that's great. I think we can move on for sure. That's great. Here's another one for you, Josh. Is Jay White underappreciated?
Yes. Jay White, the Triple H of New Japan Pro Wrestling, is one of the best heels, and I'm giving that as a compliment to Jay White. He's that talented. He's that cerebral in the ring. For those who do watch his matches, he's the master of mind games, and I love that guy's work. He's old school. He doesn't rely too much on flips and insecurities and all the extra crap that we see in all these matches these days. But Bret Carter, I mean, look at it. You could watch one match and know beforehand you're going to get a step up insecurity. You're probably going to have a Canadian destroyer. I know we mentioned Canadian too, but still, there's so many overused moves these days, but Jay White is such a talented performer, and he's definitely underestimated not only by wrestling fans, but also New Japan as well. So shout out to the Switchblade.
Yeah, I think the most overused move is the Tope Suicida, or at least we hear about it every single week from...
Are we not allowed to say suicide dive or somersault plancha anymore? Is that a derogatory term?
Whenever Excalibur talks, I just try not to pay attention. Okay, I'm going to flip these last two questions, Josh. And I'm going to next question I'm going to ask you is, who would you like to see challenge Finn Balor for the NXT Championship?
Tommaso Ciampa.
Yep.
Real quick. Yep.
I'd love to see him. I actually would love to see eventually Damian Priest challenge. That would be a hell of a match.
They had a great one at the In Your House event. You remember that?
Yeah.
In Your House?
Absolutely. I think that'd be great. Here's the great thing about NXT, Josh. There is so much great talent that could challenge for the title. You've got Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest. Hell, anyone from Undisputed Era. I mean, Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. That was tremendous at the last TakeOver event. That was incredible. Gargano will give a good match. Like I said, Pete Dunne will give a great match. I mean, there's so many wonderful options. Eventually, Cameron Grimes, Dexter Lumis, any of them.
Go to the moon.
I think it'd be great. So, but yeah, I'd love to see Ciampa. I think that'd be great. And eventually, once Karrion Kross gets healthy, I want to see him get his Scarlet Waterfall. Whew.
Yeah, Lake Michigan. There's a term I'm introducing here on the Hoots podcast when it comes to waterfall. Have you heard something called the waterfall overtures?
I have not.
Just like an overture with a song, there's a lot of layers to it. So,
I'm just going to leave that one alone. I'm just going to let our audience do that. But Josh, it's interesting you mentioned music because that segues to our final question from Nate the Great this week. Again, follow him at Psycho Negeiri. What are your 3 favorite songs of all time, and how has music influenced your life?
It's everything. I mean, outside of wrestling, without music, I'm not talking to you guys. I'm not here. This is a shoot. Music played such a huge part of my life growing up. Having family that played in music. My Aunt Berta was a organ director of our church choir in Chicago. My grandpa owns a guitar trading post here in the city. I've been playing music since I was 7 years old. It's in my blood. I love music. I listen to music for 2 hours straight before I go to sleep every day. It's my routine. It's my escape outside of wrestling, and it means everything to me. Having someone like you to connect with and somebody who actually works and helps teach people how to play music is something really special. And, I looking outside the pandemic down the future, I'm looking forward to the day where me and you could play music together for the first time, stuff like that. Awesome. I've known Brother Carter for almost 5 or 6 years. 6 years.
Yeah, I think it was 2014. I think we first connected through I believe it was Adam Daly introduced us. I want to say.
Correct.
Back on back when he was with Wrestling Rumors and we were doing warm up. Yeah, that's a long time, man.
Yeah, so I music means everything to me. Just don't make it Justin Bieber, then we're fine. So.
By the way, also shout out to Adam Daly and to AJ, who has. I will say though, Josh, our new segment is starting to make a run with thoughts of a 9-year-old. I'm just saying.
Tread lightly, Brother Carter.
I say that because Adam Daly is a good brother and he's a wonderful person, and I say that with, of course, in jest. But for me, for those of you that don't know, I'm a full-time music person. Like that's what I do for a living. I teach music, both taught at the high school level. I now teach at the college level. I'm a published composer, so music is it's what I do. My mother was a singer, a wonderful singer, and she played accordion as well, actually. But then she ended up she was a wonderful singer and passed a lot of that music stuff to me. I started piano when I was 4, took piano lessons for 12 years, as well as percussion. So yeah, music's been a huge part of my life. And I mean, it's tough for me to name 3 favorite songs because I love so many artists because the other part of the question was your 3 favorite songs of all time. And it's just tough for me to do that because I like so many artists across so many, and I can appreciate so many artists across so many genres.
Right.
That it's just tough to do that.
I think I could pick from my own, just like 3 songs that kind of defines me in a certain way. Mm-hmm. Number 1 is Sky's the Limit by Notorious B.I.G. I've shared that story before on the Hoots podcast.
And Beast Biggie.
The second one is New Kid in Town by the Eagles. The Eagles is my favorite rock band of all time. Yeah. And I always felt like a new kid in town and trying to take myself to another level. And then the third one for me is a song called Drink a Beer by Luke Bryan.
That's absolutely
a song. So my list always varies throughout the weeks. I mean, I could pull up like Santana and Smooth.
That was a jam.
The list goes on and on, but those are the 3 ones that really mean the most to me.
It's like Steven's A-list. It's flexible. It's mobile. It moves every week. Oh, that's great. Great questions, Nate. Thank you so much. Next question comes from Ed at King Edward 15.
Yes.
Absolutely. Interesting. Favorite non-pay-per-view match? So I don't know if he just says favorite non-pay-per-view match. I don't know if that's all time or recently, but a favorite non-pay-per-view match. And I'm going to give one that comes into mind, and that is the 60-minute match between John Cena and Shawn Michaels from Raw when they were in the UK. That was a classic. I thought that was absolutely terrific. So that's one. The other one I'm going to say is the Gauntlet match from a little while when Kofi Kingston won the opportunity to compete for the WWE Championship. That was the Gauntlet matches they've had. Like I think one they had the first hour and a half of Raw was a Gauntlet match. And it was awesome. So I'm going to say those are some of, just off the top of my head, those are some of my favorites.
I remember Seth Rollins having some really good Gauntlet performances on Raw as well a couple years ago. I've been fortunate to see a lot of cool ones in person. I remember John Cena and Cesaro having a clinic for the U.S. title on a Raw in 2015. Mm-hmm. Seeing Rob Van Dam versus Christian in a ladder match on Monday Night Raw, that was in Chicago as well. As much as people make Rosemont Horizon the house that Punk built, John Cena's had a lot of barn burners at that venue, and
you can't have one superstar rise to the top without another one being right along with them to help get him there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean Punk and Cena had a 5-star match at Money in the Bank 2011. Of course, apparently that gets the same amount of stars as a parking lot brawl on Dynamite, but that's enough. That just when that I'll say this, Josh. When Meltzer gave that a 5-star rating, that officially I was like, that's it. It officially has zero credibility at this point.
Did your eyes perk up like Stephen A. when Max Kellerman would have a bad take? You'd be like,
"That's blasphemous! That's blasphemous, Max Kellerman." Again, for those of you that haven't seen the show, I had the opportunity to meet Max Kellerman in New Orleans when they were there for the national championship game. In fact, I'm repping that shirt today, representing First Take, so it's all good. Max Kellerman is a top-notch, really solid, nice dude. He was great.
They should call him the Flipper.
For sure.
Call him the Flipper because he says one thing and says something else.
And Dan Orlovsky. That's must-see television. Him and Orlovsky get into it in the Eagles. I got to text Mitchell about that whenever we're talking Eagle stuff because I'm sure he can't. I got to his take on Carson Wentz is probably. Oh God. Well, again, but Kellerman's right. When Carson Wentz is getting paid $105 million, they shouldn't be 3-7.
It's also the same guy that makes Nick Foles out to be Kurt Warner.
Well, that's true. That's true too. But okay. And our final set of questions this week, we got some good ones, 4 more, and then we'll get into some other stuff. From Sam at Second City Sam. Sam, good to hear from you. Josh, I'm going to turn this one over to you. Okay. Why should everyone be watching NXT UK on a weekly basis?
Well, for those who spend Mondays and Fridays opining about pro wrestling booking and storytelling, I think that's part A of why you should start watching NXT UK because their format, the way they produce their show, the matches, they have, by the way, NXT UK has the best commentary team in WWE in Andy Shepherd and Nigel McGuinness. In my opinion, it's not even close. Having a guy like Walter, the Ring General, the UK champion's the best. It's just a really good pro wrestling show, especially those who enjoy the old school style of territory wrestling as well. I love that brand. I love everything it represents. Having Walter and Dragunov be one of the matches of the year so far, and they have a great layout at the BT Sports Studio in London during this pandemic, and it's good. You guys should really give NXT UK a chance. It's one of the best wrestling shows out there. I tell you, it's amazing how NXT UK could get more done in a 43-minute show than AEW Dark does in 2.5 hours every week.
Absolutely. I will say I don't have a chance to watch every week, unfortunately. I've had a chance to see some of their takeovers, and they've been some of my favorite wrestling events that I've watched the last few years. I mean, it's been incredible. I remember when Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne competed at NXT Chicago 2. I thought that should have won Match of the Year. Like, that was
one of my favorite matches I saw in person.
I still remember that. Like, that was incredible. I every time I get to check out NXT UK, I'm all about it. I think it's terrific. I think what they're doing with their women's division is terrific. You got Kaylee Ray. When Toni Storm was over there, she was terrific. So I love what they're doing. I love NXT UK, and whenever I get a chance to check it out, I'm all about it. That's great. Here's a good question. Do you think that this version of The Miz is any good? In Sam's opinion, 2016 Miz with the briefcase would have been very good. He's too cheesy with Morrison and a little hard to take seriously.
I partially agree with Sam on this, and I'll explain why. Because being someone who has to transcribe the dialogue in some of these promos, as much as I like John Morrison and I think he's good on the mic, their stuff is a little over the top. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the music video that they did, and some of the Biz and Morrison, hey, ho ho. Yeah. I love all of that. That's fun and entertaining and all, but I think for me, like, what they've been doing recently when they have these Miz TVs, and okay, here you go. I'm gonna type this out. John Morrison asks a question. No, Miz asks a question. John Morrison answers, and then Miz goes, correct, and he says it like 7 times in this segment, and I'm like, and I get that that's good heel heat in a way, but when it gets. It's one thing being annoying, and then there's a part where you want to punch your TV because the guy correct. Like, I don't know where he's going for. I know he's doing a Bob Barker skit. I don't know, not Bob Barker, a Drew Carey gag. I don't get what they're doing. Look, I'm happy Mrs. Mr. Money in the Bank, and he's a good fit for Monday Night Raw, but honestly, it'd be better for both of them being their separate ways and John Morrison being the heel on his own.
I actually disagree, and I love what Miz is doing, and I think this is a fantastic Miz for 2020. Here's why. I agree with you, Josh, that the comedy stuff is – I think Miz and Morrison, they crack me up every single week. And the fact that you want to punch your TV because of the correct means that Miz is doing his job, and he's getting the exact type of reaction that he wants. But I also know that at a split second, both Miz and Morrison can turn it on and be 100% serious. Like, you saw that when a few years ago on the Talking Smack with Daniel Bryan. Like, right. and we know that. And I know Miz has got his Mrs. show. He hosted Cannonball. Like, Miz is doing a lot of projects outside of the company, which is fine. I mean, he's a great ambassador for WWE. Right. But I think it works really well because at a moment's notice, Miz can flip the script and be just this badass, like, I am the best. Nobody can take that away from me. And say it with such conviction and seriousness that you're like, okay, I'm paying attention. Same thing with Morrison. So that's why I think Miz, I love this version of Miz. I think this is the best Miz we've ever seen. And I'm sad for Otis because I really wanted him to have an opportunity. But at the same time, I get it because who is Otis going to cash in on? Roman Reigns? No. Is he going to cash in on Randy Orton? No. Is he going to cash in on Drew McIntyre? No. Nope. The Fiend? No. I mean, like, it's, it was the right move at the time, but I think that they just, because Otis was on such a, he had such momentum going forward. But and I feel bad because I think Otis really is talented. And I think Otis could be a great mid-card champion and could be a U.S. champion or an intercontinental champion. And I think that could work out terrific. But so I feel bad. But at the same time, Miz having the briefcase was the right move. And I think it's great. Here we go. Now we're talking. Best Mexican food in the city.
Best Italian beef in the city? Oh, man.
No, Mexican food. Best Mexican food in the city.
Oh, Mexican food? Oh, boy. there's a place in right around my neighborhood that's called Donut Nadi's. Tacos is good. I'm not. Here's the confession I need to make, everybody. I am not the biggest fan of regular tacos.
Brother Adam, no, you're killing me. Oh no, dude. Mexican food, especially tacos, is one of my vices. Like I feel like I am an expert in this field. But go ahead.
I think for me, the regular taco has downgraded down to meatloaf status. For me personally,
that's blasphemous. Lopez, you don't be talking anymore. Yes, Lopez, I'm gonna shut you up right now. No. You don't be talking this stuff. That's blasphemous. That's blasphemous. Brother Carter had to come out on that one, man. We ain't playing that game.
Yeah, if you want a good like cheap meal in the prison, go snatch yourself a regular taco and
gosh, I'm about to come to the screen. I'm about to come to the screen. I'm about to come to the screen and I'm gonna put you in a triangle chokehold there, Josh Lopez. You don't know what you're talking about.
Whatever you do, don't do the submission hold that Jake Hager does, because I know his goal is to put people to sleep, but when he applies it, I want to sleep.
And we're getting him and Wardlow, man. That's gonna put some butts in the seats.
Brutal. Yeah, but there's good Mexican food places. Like Chavez is a popular one on Granite and Western here in Chicago. It's a very good one as well. So there's a lot of good Mexican food out there. There's also a lot of good Puerto Rican food. More importantly,
yes. Yeah, I love tacos, Josh. Tacos are one of my favorite food. I lived in Austin for 10 years earlier in my life, and Austin, some people call the taco capital of the world. There are so many great little taco trucks just in downtown Austin. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Right.
If you're looking for a chain place, Torchy's Tacos to me is still one of my favorites. I now live in Boulder, Colorado, and there's a Torchy's about a block from where I live, so that's very cool. In Austin, there's some great places. Mesa Rosa is a place in Austin, which is great. If you're looking for some chains down in the area, Gloria's makes great Mexican food. I love that.
Right.
So that's always terrific. I mean, there's just so many great places that you could go to that I really, really am a fan of. But anytime it's got Mexican food, I'm all about it. So. By the way, Second City Sam, if you're listening, is that Chicago, Josh? I'm assuming Second City, he'd be Chicago.
Yeah, that's my buddy that I went to broadcasting school with.
Got it.
Yeah,
cool. Very good. And here's a last question, Josh, and then we'll get into our flagship segment, because I have so much to say about our flagship segment this week. What is your take on guys like Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, etc.? Should they be in the Hall of Fame?
Before I get to that, let me just say, I was looking at the Hall of Fame ballots for baseball this year. I'm at that point where I'm realizing that I'm old now. Like nearly everybody on that list is I watched as a kid. From Manny Ramirez to Jeff Kent, Kurt Schilling, there's a lot of people. Nick Swisher, even though he's a douchebag, I don't know why he's on that ballot. Yeah, there's a lot of talented people on that list, but as far as like Barry Bonds of the world or Mark McGwire's and stuff like that, I think they do deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. I do. More importantly, before you get to like Sammy Sosa, before we even get to those conversations, there's no reason why Pete Rose should not be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Let's just start off with that. And we have the most corrupt Hall of Fame process in sports here in the U.S. with the fact that political sports writers that select these guys into the Hall of Fame, it's just a flawed system. Yeah, I get it. They undermine the game. The Alex Rodriguez of the world, the Sammy Sosa's, all that. They kept that sport afloat. It wasn't just the Yankees dynasty that kept baseball relevant in the late 90s. It was the home runs. It was the entire league at that time. And
look at the Atlanta Braves. They had a great run in the 90s as well.
Yeah. I just don't see why they they should not be in there. Like, I get the frustration with steroids and all that. Trust me, I get it. But it's not saying like you have to put them on the pedestal or anything like that. But I do think they belong in the Hall of Fame.
It's tough because, they've obviously what they've done before they started using the performance-enhancing drugs, or in Pete Rose's case, betting on baseball and stuff like that. If you just take that all away and ignore that part of the career, they've done great things,
right.
Before they started doing that stuff. And I think for those accolades, you can put them in the Hall of Fame. But I also see the argument, because it's like, do you want to reward rewards? Essentially, you're rewarding somebody for making this, for putting a black eye on the sport. So and saying that's what you have to do to be successful. So are you do you want to reward that type of behavior by immortalizing them in a shrine where they're alongside the greatest people, like alongside the Babe Ruths and Jackie Robinsons and these people who are the true trailblazers, Ken Griffey Jr., these people who are who are the I'm not going to say elite, the best of all time. Who are the boats, the best of all time. Shout out to Natalia. I'm not going to use another term that starts with the letter E. But so I see the argument, and that's a tricky slope. Maybe you can put them in a separate wing or something like that, because again, by admitting them into the Hall of Fame, you're saying they are worthy of being alongside some of the greatest that have ever played the game and did it the right way for their entire careers. So it's tough. For sure. But this has been great. Thank you all so much for your questions this week. Please continue to submit the questions to Josh. You can submit them to him at the Hoots Podcast. You can submit them on his Facebook page. You can also do it. Where else can they submit questions to you, Josh, for future episodes?
Also, you can send them out at the Hoots Podcast at gmail.com as well.
That'd be great. Very good. And now, Josh, it is time. I've been looking forward to this all week, my friend. It's time for the flagship segment of the Hoots Podcast, and I'm going to crank my sound because here we go. It's time for What the Hell is Wrong with AEW? Josh, we've been doing What the Hell is Wrong with AEW for 4 months now, and I still laugh every time I hear the theme music. It's great.
That's awesome.
It's great. By the way, it's also sponsored by the Wrestling Observer newsletter and that chode Dave Meltzer. But anyways, Josh, what the hell is wrong with AEW? And we're just going to launch right into this God-forsaken. This was another just horrible, in my opinion, for some good wrestling, which we'll get into, but by and large, another horrible edition of AEW Dynamite. Okay, we're going to get into the first match. The Young Bucks against Top Flight, okay? I will say this. I think Top Flight has talent. I believe that they're talented athletes, and there's a place for them. But it was a typical tag team match. No, it was just spot after spot after spot after spot. No storytelling. It was just basically Top Flight trying to be the Young Bucks. Why does Tony Schiavone continue to hype up the Young Bucks like they're this elite team when they super kicked him in the face? It's like, well, I know they super kicked me in the face, but they're great talent and they're blah, 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 blah. It's absolutely ridiculous, Josh. And go ahead. What do you think? What did you think about this?
Well, first off, I want to say really quick, I like the little video package they did on Top Flight before the match started. I thought that was fine. Here's the thing, and it's going to be a theme with this segment this week. In my opinion, I think the match pairings in AEW suck ass. Just pure ass, okay? Mm-hmm. They are ridiculous, and the merits in the way they get into these matches are just as bad as well. You cannot come out and say you're the sports-based company when you give a title match to a team that was one-on-one, that had a 1-1 record on AEW Dark. I don't know what we're basing the top 5 rankings on. They don't even update their standings. I had to do that before I do an article where I have to look at the preseason to see if I'm doing it right. And it's just a flawed system. Anybody that tells you that AEW sports-based wrestling, they're lying to you.
what's the point of a ranking system if you're not rewarding the contenders with title matches? Like, it's ridiculous. At least be in the ballpark. Like in UFC, yeah, they may give the number 2 or number 3 person a shot at the title, but they're at least in the top, they're at least in top contention. Now, I will say that's a flaw in UFC too. I don't understand why the number 1 ranking doesn't automatically get a title match, but I know it's a little bit different because UFC, they only have like 3 or 4 pay-per-views a year. So you've got to build and hype up the fight, plus, as well as, build up the undercard. So it's a little bit different, and I get it. But the ranking system makes absolutely no sense to me at all. And they don't, like, when WCW did their ranking system, like every week they would say, okay, and here's our top 10 this week. Like, fine. Like, that's fine. But it's a ridiculous ranking system, and nobody cares about it. It's stupid. Speaking of stupid, Josh, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I just want to say really quick about the match. I agree, dude. Top Flight do have talent. I just can't buy into the Young Bucks. I mentioned this last week. When it comes to the Young Bucks, I can't suspend my disbelief with them in the ring. So suddenly Matt Jackson's knee and leg is fine. He can do dives and all that stuff. And let's not forget our favorite corpse referee just being completely out of position. I think they're trying to troll us by having Rick Knox be the referee for every Young Bucks match at this point. But what else is new?
Well, he's awful. Aubrey Edwards was horrible this week again too. Way out of position. She has no cadence to her counting of 3. She has to do a little loop-de-loop around the performers before she can get a position. It basically adds another count to the pinfall.
She's the worst referee in all professional wrestling. It's not.
Yeah, well, either here or Rick Knox is up there.
Yeah.
It's a battle. But okay, speaking of horrible, Josh, did you know that the Inner Circle went to Las Vegas this week?
I know. It was supposed to be the biggest thing ever, right?
But here we go. Okay, so Josh, and I don't know if you know this, were you aware that we are in a global pandemic?
I believe we are.
We are, right?
These gummy bears are a testament. I wouldn't have had them for any other reason.
And Josh, what has the CDC recommended that we do whenever we are out in public?
Wear masks and practice social distancing.
Yes, I believe that's true. Yes. Did the Inner Circle do any of that this week in their trip to Vegas?
I don't believe they did.
I don't believe they did either. And to me, I know what they were trying to do, and there was a couple moments where I was like,
don't lower yourself like
you're right. I'm not. This was horrible. This was one of the most, again, like you said, when you have a Wrestling Observer mark for a booker, he thinks this is entertainment. He thinks that this is, people are going to buy this. It's obviously an homage to the Hangover movie, which was, fine. But I'm just shocked that they didn't have Mike Tyson in there, because apparently Tyson and Jericho.
He was in that movie too. That's funny.
I know. It was absolutely. And now, apparently, we're getting Jake Hager versus Wardlow, apparently, because now, which I feel sad for Wardlow, because I actually think Wardlow has potential.
Mm-hmm.
But I hated every single aspect of this segment. You could clear that it was awkward. Seeing Conan, fine. Seeing Hornswoggle as a baby kind of made me gag a little bit. I thought that was stupid. Conan looks like he's aged about 90 years. So Josh, I hated everything about this.
I just don't know how we doubled down from Le Dinner Devil shit. Like, oh man. Okay, here we go. So the Inner Circle going to Vegas, in my opinion, is as equivalent to Donald Trump going golfing while skipping coronavirus task force meetings. That's how I look at this, okay? We got the players here, right? We got Jericho as Rudy Giuliani, okay? He's basically at this point. I had to ask this question as well, and this hurts me to say this because I do respect Tony Schiavone, but who's more useless in AEW? Nyquil Lesnar or Tony Schiavone? I really need to know the question. The answer to that question.
Well, I almost want to say Shivani because at least Nyquil Lesnar has his smoking hot wife.
That's a very good point. And like he has a lot of overtures as well. So, but still, like I'm watching this right, and this is the company that said we're not gonna do stuff that WWE would do, that we're above that. And this is the thing. You saw that little like promotional commercial they did during the show that we're boundless, we're a revolution, we're gonna do things right by our wrestlers and right by the fans, right?
I actually made a note about that, so I'm glad you segue, but go ahead.
Like you put that on, and you guys put a good front. I'll give you that. AEW puts in a good front, and you could sell me on anything, but I'm not buying what you're selling. Like you could tell me whatever you want. You could show me Le Dinner Debonair. You could show me a town hall meeting. You could show me jackasses going to Las Vegas and getting exposed to Corona, right? And at the end of the day, my thoughts have not changed one bit. Inner Circle sucks. Chris Jericho sucks. I feel bad for Santana Ortiz, but in AEW, they suck. Nyquil Lesnar sucks. And it's a shame that you have the hottest young talent potentially as a heel associated with this, where we have to wait to what, January to figure out whether the Inner Circle is going to turn their back on COVID God. Like, there's nothing left in this group for me to give two shits about. Nothing. And going to Vegas, ripping off The Hangover, doing stupid Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin skits are not getting MJF over. We've been saying it for months now. Chris Jericho needs to get off of television for the love of God.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's one thing to do comedy, but when you're the company that says we're sports-based and we're above silly comedy segments and wrestling shows, I'm going to call you on it, because unlike these other websites and podcasts are just going to kiss their ass for a job and chance to do like press row or be part of like the scrums or whatever, I'm not going to do that, because you're doing a disservice to your fans. You're saying one thing and you're doing something else. And if I'm going to be one of the few people that call you out on your hypocrisies, I'm going to do it. It's just a disservice to wrestling fans to say, oh, this is the alternative. No, you're not. If anything, AEW is low rent 2000 WCW. Let's be honest about it.
Yes. Well, here's the other thing, Josh, about that, and because I actually made a comment about this promo video. One of the things that they were hyping about is they said, us AEW talent, we can be who we want to be. I was like, yes, you can. And it sucks. You can be who you want to be, and it's horrible. Like, go ahead, be whoever you want to be, make a ton of money because, you know, Tony Khan's daddy is writing all the checks. Fine.
Right.
But here's the thing, Josh. Somehow they've positioned themselves to be the number 2 wrestling company in the world, yet their fan base is literally a very small part of the entire wrestling fan base, right? Mm-hmm. They are targeting a group of marks who they're basically targeting the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community. But guess what? Those fans are going to be around forever. And in about 2 to 3 or 4 years, once this novelty act has worn off and the marks have realized, well, actually, there are certain marks who are going to think this is the greatest thing ever because they're Meltzer dweebs and Brian Alvarez nimrods, and they just, they think they're the gospel. So they will always have that hardcore fan base that is trying to rise up. But eventually, a bunch of people who are checking it out for the first time is like, oh, I think when I was growing up, I saw this Chris Jericho guy. Let's see what he's up to. Okay, cool. This is what he's doing? Okay, that's good. Thanks. Right? Like, why would anybody, when they say Jake the Snake Roberts, oh, I remember him growing up. That's cool. Right. This is what he's doing now? Okay, that's enough of this. That's fine. Right? The novelty act is going to wear off. The money's going to run out. And eventually, they're just going to fade away into obsolescence like WCW did. So they can be who they want to be, but who they are sucks. Speaking of sucks, I'm going to say this, Josh, and I've said this before. Kenny Omega sucks. Kenny Omega is an overrated waste of time. And Internet Marks, you can send your hate tweets to @DerekStoughton, but Kenny Omega is an overrated waste of time. Now, I think Kenny Omega is a very, very good athlete. I think, in fact, I'll even go to say Kenny Omega is a great athlete. He is like, when it comes to just being an athlete, Kenny Omega, I have no problems with it at all. But here's the problem, Josh. Great athletes are a dime a dozen in today's professional wrestling world. Right. What is Omega doing that is standing himself out from the great athletes who could also cut a kick-ass promo? Like Roman Reigns, like Drew McIntyre, like The Fiend. What is he doing to separate himself and make him above those talents? Yet somehow Kenny Omega gets all these accolades that don't mean a damn thing. If they were actually doing some goofy accolades like when Matt Hardy was doing, like with the Mattitude facts, like right. Okay, I can actually, like, if they were doing that, I would laugh and think that that was kind of funny. Right. But it's stupid accolades that nobody gives a damn about. And Kenny Omega, to me, is the absolute most overrated waste of space I have seen in the modern professional wrestling landscape.
On this program, we refer to that man as Kenny Olivier. The one thing that Kenny Olivier does to make himself stand out is basically sing his promos. That's basically what he is. And I got to give Cornette props, man. It's verbal twinkle toes. That's who he is. He's condescending. He thinks he's above what he actually is as a performer. Oh, now it's convenient for me that now I have to do what I have to do to be the best bout machine. You're the self-proclaimed best bout machine by a writer from San Jose, California, who makes Adam Schefter look like Albert Einstein. Okay? Like, anybody that tries to tell you that Dave Meltzer is a great journalist and a great media member, you're just full of shit. Let's be honest, okay? Dave Meltzer, comparing him to the Ian Rappaports of the world, or Adam Schefter, or Buster Only, or Jeff Passan, who does baseball, or Woj from the NBA, you're spitting in their face when you put Dave Meltzer in those categories, okay? Give credit where credit's due. Dave has spent 40 years brainwashing wrestling fans to fit his narrative on the landscape of pro wrestling. Okay, I'll give him that props. It is what it is. But on the Hoots podcast, we speak for ourselves, and I'll tell you right now, for JR hyping this up to be the biggest show of the year, it's going to be bigger than WrestleMania. It's going to be the biggest Dynamite ever, like I've said earlier in the show. Yeah, you could say that, but when you say that about every other week of your shows that you hype up, it starts to lose its luster. And this stupid, and I mean stupid intro that Justin Roberts continues to belt out every single week, where he has to get himself over with this. Oh, he has something to do with North Carolina. Like, first off, who gives a shit about North Carolina? Let's get that out of the way, okay? Like, shout
out to our fans in North Carolina. If you're in North Carolina, we love you. Shout out to you guys. Yes. All right, as the director of operations, yes, I need to make sure that everything is smooth and that we've got to iron things out. But go ahead.
Right. Okay. AW's now got me hating states now. That's great. No, I don't get the North Carolina. There you go. That's a better impression.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't get it. And this stupid ass. PWI said this. Wrestling Observer said that. Who cares? Do you think a casual viewer of television knows what the fuck a Wrestling Observer is, or who Brian Alvarez is, or Wade Keller of the world? Right. If you're watching that show for the first time and how sloppy that segment went, even with Jon Moxley being laid out in the backstage area, if you're watching it for the first time, you think you'd be watching a public access wrestling show. And that's being fair. I could be far meaner than I am right now.
You're being generous.
I'm being generous. Yes, I am. And when I watch this show, it's just poorly run. You said it a couple weeks ago. AEW does not know how to format a television show.
No.
They don't. They make an ass of themselves every week. Why is it that every time JR is trying to transition to a video package or picture-in-picture, it's sloppy. It's all over the place. It's a damn circus down there in Jacksonville. And look at the end of that segment with Tony Schiavone and Kenny Omega can't decide whether they want to exit the ring or not. Like, what the hell was that?
It's awful.
No, I can't get enough of that intro. It's so stupid, man. I'm putting that as probably the dumbest thing in wrestling this year, besides Le Dinner Debonair, is that intro.
I will say I had the opportunity to interview Justin Roberts a few years ago.
He's awesome, man. He's
a great guy. And by the way, and his book is actually really cool too. So, check out his book and the interview that we did. You can check it out on WrestlingRumors.net. But so he's a nice guy. But you're right, Josh. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Speaking of things that I can't stand, I feel like our segues are just outstanding here today. There was a great match. I'll give credit where credit is due between Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. I thought that was an excellent match on Dynamite this week. And we got to see Britt Baker DMD. And anytime we get to see Britt Baker, it is Britt Baker Appreciation Day. So, yes, props to her. That's great. But, Josh, to me, it says a lot when the best women's wrestling on your show features two NWA talents. Think about that. Perhaps the best match we've seen from the women in the history of Dynamite, or at least it's a contender, was for the NWA Championship between two wrestlers who wrestle under the NWA banner. Right? Let's think about that for a minute. And then also, I'm sorry, but I have to call JR out on this one, at least for my opinion, anyways.
Okay.
They were talking about the AEW heels thing, where they're trying to get women to watch professional wrestling. And then his comment is, did they have a bake sale? Like, I don't know if you caught that. And I'm
I did.
Like, how sexist are you trying to be, man? Like, this is not the 1980s or 90s where you can make those kind of comments anymore. Like, to me, I think that was incredibly sexist. It was disrespectful to women. And I thought that JR, I think he needs to issue an apology because I think women should be offended by that.
He's just getting worse as the weeks go by. Like, Jay, I never thought I'd get to the point where I never want to hear Jim Ross call another wrestling show again. But I'm getting there, like, very soon. It's just embarrassing. And then, like, Excalibur just talks. He has no substance to anything he does in these matches. Dude, you're basically what I'm doing, typing out the match and the transcript. That's all you're doing. I could call names of moves. And I don't understand why every transition spot has to have some reference to an Antonio Banderas movie. Escalera into this, the Banderas into that, Cazador into the like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, can you just call it a wheelbarrow flatliner? Why is it an Escalera? Mamma mia, Ari Hara moonsault. Like, dude, just call it what the move is. Like, I guess you have a gimmick name for a finisher. That's fine. But simple moves as a somersault plancha. And I get it. You're a luchador back in the day in the California scene. Awesome, bro. Nobody knows what you did outside of what you did behind the scenes in PWG as a wrestler. That's it.
Right. And
nobody knows or cares about Hayabusa or all these guys that you reference with the names of these moves. Nobody cares. Nobody gives you shits. I know these moves because I heard it from Kevin Kelly and the Match Strikers of the world and Mauro Ranallo. And you're doing nothing to make yourself stand out. And here's the problem. You're the play-by-play guy. You call 13 matches per week on AEW Dark. You have a 2-hour window to improve yourself each and every single week. You've called over 150 matches in the last 2 months, and you still suck ass. You're not good at your job. You're not.
No.
It's just ridiculous. Let me mention this really quick, since we're talking about match pairings. So this week I had to suffer through stunted growth and jelly Nutella on AEW Dark this week. And also, I got treated with another stellar festivity. We had Times New Roman font and Kate Sabian against Pockets. Now, I know, Brett Carter, you enjoy Orange Cassidy. He is hit and miss with me sometimes. I don't hate Orange Cassidy, but I will call him Pockets because sometimes it's just ridiculous at certain times.
I will say the going into the Pockets like 3 or 4 times to start the match, I was like, okay, we get it. Like that's your shtick. Fine. But the thing about Orange Cassidy though is I actually think Orange Cassidy is a really good athlete.
Right.
I think that if you just let him go, he actually is a good worker. And I think that he moves in the ring very well. He's, I think that I just think he's very athletic. And again, he's a good athlete. But much like Kenny Olivier, like there are a ton of good athletes in professional wrestling, or a dime a dozen. And I will say the Orange Cassidy shtick, it is starting to wear down on me a little bit. Like, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, when he was first doing it, I thought it was hilarious. And I was like, this is kind of funny. I will say, though, in Orange Cassidy's defense, not having a crowd kind of kills his gimmick. So, and that's not his fault.
Right.
You know, I want to say that for a lot of these wrestlers, while we're inside of a pandemic and we're just not allowed to have live fans, I've got to give some of them a pass because it's, a lot of the wrestlers say it, like they play off the crowd, like they do what they do in response to what the crowd does. So I'm willing to give Orange Cassidy a pass on that until we get back to the live crowd. Then if it just isn't resonating by that point, then there's nothing he can do at that point.
Yeah, and then when it comes to Times New Roman font, that just explains itself. So
and then they have Miro, who's just I'm sorry, but Miro proves my point where AEW is where WWE careers go to die. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. That's all I have for what the hell on my part of it. Anything else you want to add, Josh?
Really quick on Miro, I agree. He's another example of the Sean Spears of the world, where they act like they're bigger than what they are. And more as the weeks go by, you start to realize why certain performers were not pushed the way you thought they should have been in WWE. Let's just say that. And also, AEW is another example why creative freedom is the most overrated want in appetite in pro wrestling.
It's only good for the people that have it in their contracts. It's not good for anybody else.
Oh, speaking of those people, the one thing I happen to like, but I will nitpick the one thing. So Darby Allin's the TNT champion, right? Mm-hmm. He gets the main event, the show. He gets top billing with Cody Rhodes against Taz, right? They have a really good match. I think that's probably the only thing I liked from Dynamite last night, besides seeing Penelope Ford, right? So like, it was.
and don't forget the bunny.
Yeah, paper bag waterfall. Yes.
I disagree with you on that, but go ahead.
Okay.
and don't forget about Anna Jay as well. Dark Order waterfall.
Yes, she's number 1 on the overture list. Okay. Yeah. So, by the way, congrats to Anna. She's gonna get a future title shot next week.
One thing I will say real quick, Josh, is I actually think that her and John Silver are actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
John Silver is growing on me every week. He really is.
It's funny, like the thing that I like about AEW is BTE. That's it. But
stupidest theme song. I know you hate Sami Zayn's theme song, but the BTE theme song is the worst song in professional wrestling.
They cancel each other out.
It's stupid. Super kick pod. It feels like it's. I hate that theme song. Go ahead.
Yeah, but like you have this match, right? Allin and Rhodes against Taz. I thought the match was really good. I liked that main event. And then you have Will Hobbs join Taz. All fine, no complaints there. Agreed. But here's the thing: you have the TNT champion in the ring, but he has to be outstaged by Jeff Jarrett. Cody, stop for the love of God with these freaking pay-per-view entrances every single week, dude. You're not Darth Vader. I don't need to get the vibes of the Revenge of the Sith with you becoming Darth Vader every time you come out. It's just so freaking stupid, man. And again, I'll ask this question. What American Nightmare constitutes you being a babyface? That makes no sense. You're the Nightmare, but you're a babyface. You got your manager out there with the Matt Nagy play sheet, and he cheats as a babyface manager. It's just so stupid. But yeah, the match was good. I thought that match was good, and that's the saving grace from this mud show that we watched again on TNT.
It was an absolute mud show, Josh. All right, let's get out of here. This has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW.
Brought to you by Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer.
Indeed. Well, I did want to say one thing, Josh, one more thing about AEW this week, but I didn't want to lump it into that segment because I actually enjoyed it. It was really terrific to see Pac back this week. I thought that was great. That is an example of how a really good athlete in AEW tells a story. I thought that was great. And I'm looking forward to his feud with Eddie Kingston. And I think, to me, I think Eddie Kingston is the top talent in AEW right now. He is spot on every single week. So I wanted to put that outside of that segment because I actually really enjoyed that this week.
I like the Pac and Blade match too. I forgot to mention that as well. I thought that was
good. Yep, that was great. Blade, I think, is fantastic. Butcher,
the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker.
That's right. Josh, before we get into Survivor Series predictions, would you take a moment, please, and talk to us about New Japan and what's going on with that, as well as NXT?
I can't do for NXT right now, just for time that we're on right now.
Oh, we are running short on time. Yes. Okay. Yeah. But can you talk about New Japan real quick, and then we'll get into our Survivor Series predictions?
Yeah, right now for New Japan, I'm covering both the World Tag League and the Best of the Super Juniors tournament right now for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com to catch up with the updated standings. I did the World Tag League today, which was a fun event. Main event, Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi against Shingo and Sonata, which was an absolutely insane match. It's been interesting to have these faction members fight each other in tag matches as well. Like you have Chaos members fighting each other. You got Bullet Club members fighting each other. I gotta say, man, Gorillas of Destiny are one of my favorite tag teams in all professional wrestling. They're awesome. So it's been fun covering the World Tag League. And then the Best of the Super Juniors is just a lot of stuff that I was seeing on 205 Live. There's been some good matches, but nothing that's really like grabbed me as yet. But we'll see what they do tomorrow for their show. It's 19 events from this past Sunday to the middle of December that I'm covering. And it's a lot of action, but it's been worth it in a lot of ways. So check it out, ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. I had the transcripts for all those shows. And, of course, NXT as well. You guys want to check it out. So good stuff, man. Like, I really enjoy what they're doing for New Japan. New Japan Strong's an awesome show. They got a thing called New Japan Strong that they air every Friday night after SmackDown, which is a 1 hour show. It has a lot of vibes of NXT UK, in my opinion, just a US version for New Japan. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I think Kevin Kelly and Alex Kozlov do a great job on commentary. So, yeah, go check out the New Japan stuff, pal.
Excellent. Very good. And now, Josh, I know we're running short on time, so we need to get through this, but Survivor Series is happening this weekend, and it is always tradition to give us our predictions. Before we get into the actual matches, I think the thing I'm most excited about, and I think you are too, 30 years ago, The Undertaker made his debut at Survivor Series and now is giving his final farewell. Before we get into the matches, I hope that it's just what I would like to see from it is where he comes out, does the Undertaker thing, talks a little bit as Taker, but then drops the gimmick and actually just starts talking as Mark Calloway for a little while and just thanks the fans and gets like a Ric Flair type retirement. No anybody coming out to set up a feud for WrestleMania 37, nothing like that. You know, just coming out, do the Undertaker shtick, and then just talk to the fans as Mark Calloway to close the show. I think, and then everybody comes out, gives him an applause and stuff. I think that would be really, really, really cool, and I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm kind of hoping that does happen just to see B-Rob's reaction to it because he can't stand the Undertaker anymore. Yeah, Sunday's gonna be emotional for me, man. Like Undertaker is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers outside of CM Punk, and just like you said, I hope he gets a chance to speak from the heart. And I'm just curious to see what happens. You know, it's always good to see the Undertaker, so this should be a very special moment
Agreed. And now let's get into the actual matches themselves, Josh. We've got, so far, WWE has 6 matches listed. I believe those will be the only 6 matches we get, plus the Undertaker farewell. I don't think we're going to see Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross until TLC. I don't think we'll see Carmella. Obviously, we won't see Carmella and Sasha Banks until TLC. But we're going to start with Josh, and I have to be fair. We compliment WWE where we need to compliment them, and we're going to critique them where would they need to be critiqued. And we're going to start with the 2 traditional Survivor Series matches. And I'm going to be honest with you, Josh, I don't give a damn about either of these matches. I don't care, because I think the build to both of them has been terrible. I have no reason to care. Maybe the only exception to this is maybe the Raw men's team. But other than that, the Raw men's team is in disarray, and the SmackDown team is not complete. Like, I just don't care about either of these matches. I really don't. But so far, we've got the men's Survivor Series match. Right now, you've got the team of, let's see, Keith Lee, Sheamus, Braun Strowman, Matt Riddle, and the supposed captain versus AJ Styles, taking on the now team of Seth Rollins, King Corbin, Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, and a person to be named this Friday on SmackDown. I'll take the SmackDown team just for the hell of it. I think that they'll find a way to get it done. But again, I have to be honest with you, Josh. I don't care about this match at all.
I'll disagree on one side. I don't care for the women's match, but I do care about the men's match. What they've been doing with Jey Uso over the last couple weeks has been really good. Having matching parents like Seth Rollins and AJ Styles in the match and other implements in this match should be good. Here's the thing. It can't be stated that we're just coming off the heels with the draft, so there's not a lot of storyline emphasis in Survivor Series where you're just doing Raw and SmackDown, so it takes away your emotional investment of what it is. I'm just looking at it for what the match is. I know the match is going to be awesome. That's the thing. You have Sheamus in the ring. You got Keith Lee. I think Team Raw is going to win this match. I think Keith Lee will be the sole survivor of this match. So that'd be my pick. But I just wouldn't go out and fully say there's nothing to it, because I think you can get some feud out of this particular match. And just because on TV it doesn't have the emphasis as it usually would, I don't think that's a case that it is not worth watching.
Excuse me. And I think the match is going to, I agree with you. I think the match is going to be fine. But again, please don't misconstrue what I'm about to say. And I'm not comparing the two companies, but we just bashed AEW for having great matches, but not great storytelling. And I just don't think that there's great storytelling in this match, at least in the build up to this match. I just don't think there's been great storytelling, and you've got to have both to sell a pay-per-view. So that's where I'm coming from in this. So that again, that's just my opinion on this. But and then again, we get to the women's match, and again, much like the men's match, Josh, I just don't have a reason to care about this match.
Well, their story has been about embarrassing Lana and make her earn her spot. And it looks like I go with SmackDown here, probably the safe choice there, and have Bianca be the sole survivor, obviously. Yeah. But I just think the entertainment aspect just falls off the face of the earth when it comes to Nia Jax, because she basically ruins everything. So,
and you've got Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who are terrific. Now Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. It was going to be Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, but they got taken out on Raw.
Good substitutes. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Good substitutes. Yes.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yes.
And then Lana taking on the team of Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and 2 to be named. The teams aren't complete, so why do I have a reason to care?
Well, that's why we got tomorrow night.
I know. There hasn't been room to build to the match, if that makes sense.
Let's just say Carmella and Bayley will take the final 2 spots.
Oh, I'd be okay with that. I think that'd be terrific. But okay, now we get into the championship matches, and Josh, we have 4 champion versus champion matches that are going to be kick ass, and I'm excited. Let's start with the mid-card title match. Representing Raw, you've got Bobby Lashley in the Hurt Business versus Sami Zayn as the Intercontinental Champion representing SmackDown. Who do you got in this one?
Let me just say, the Hurt Business is the best faction in all of wrestling right now, and it's not close. As far as this match is concerned, I am kind of nervous with the fact that Sami Zayn keeps trying to pretend that he's Toriano and trying to find unique ways to get countouts and all this extra stuff to win matches now. So that's something to look out for. But I'll go with Bobby Lashley in this match.
I'm going to take Bobby Lashley too. I think that the Hurt Business has incredible momentum right now, and I agree with you. They're some of the best factions in wrestling. They may be the best faction in wrestling right now. You could make an argument that it's Undisputed Era, or and Pat McAfee's stable is starting to make a run. But isn't it interesting that the competitive factions are in NXT and not on Raw and SmackDown, which I think is interesting. But I'm with you. I'm taking Bobby Lashley to win as well. I think it's gonna be a great match. You've got the Raw Tag Team Champions, the New Day, taking on the Street Profits from SmackDown. I'm going to take this one's tough for me. I'm going to take the Street Profits to get the win here. I think that's going to help us that could potentially set up something with Big E on SmackDown. Obviously, Big E is going to be in the New Day's corner, but I'm going to take based upon what I think is going to happen later on the night, which we'll talk about in a second, I'm going to take the Street Profits to get the win here.
Yeah, I got the Street Profits here, more of like a passing of the torch scenario here. So I'll go with Street Profits.
Great. We've got the women's match. This one, I'm sort of excited about it, but not as excited as others. And we'll get to that here in a second. Representing Raw, you've got Asuka. Representing SmackDown, you've got Sasha Banks as the respective champions. Josh, who do you got in this one?
I got Sasha Banks. This should be a good match. I'm looking forward to it. But I see Sasha getting this one. It looks like maybe Raw get more victories on the total night than SmackDown, but I think Sasha will beat Asuka. And these two have had great matches all over the summer this year, so I wouldn't be surprised by anything they do this Sunday.
I'm taking Asuka just because I think she's the number 2 female wrestler. Oh gosh, I have trouble deciding who I have as number 2. I'm going to put Asuka as number 3 right now, but it's very, very, very close to number 2 being Alexa Bliss and number 1 being, of course, the Queen Charlotte Flair. But I'm going to take Asuka to win this. I can't see Sasha getting over in Asuka in this. I just think Asuka is too talented in the ring. She's got it's a hard sell for me to Asuka losing to Sasha Banks. I just can't see it happening. So Asuka can't lose because of the Snoop Dogg remix of the theme song. I just think Asuka's an incredible talent. I think she's the number 3 wrestler, female in the world, behind Alexa Bliss at 2, and of course the Queen, the GOAT, at number 1.
Right.
And then we get to the main event. The newly crowned WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, representing Raw, versus the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. I think that Roman Reigns is, it's close between him and The Fiend, who is the top. Roman Reigns, I'm giving a slight edge to as the best professional wrestler in the world right now. Secondary being The Fiend. Roman Reigns is going to get the win here. I see no reason for McIntyre to get a win here, but this is going to be a brutal war that is going to be absolutely incredible in every way, shape, or form. But I've got Roman Reigns coming out as the victor in this match between the two top folks on each brand.
I'm totally looking forward to this. It should be a hell of a barn burner, a slobber knocker, as JR would say. I'm going with the Tribal Chief of Pro Wrestling, as I like to call him. I'm going with Roman Reigns. This should be a great match. If he doesn't, I always throw out that caveat there. You never know.
No. Oh, I know. Yeah. Oh, I know. No, don't even just quiet you. Not even then. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. And that's our predictions for Survivor Series this weekend. I'm really looking forward to the show. It's going to be great. And that is going to put a bow on episode 232 of the Hoots podcast. Josh, it has been an honor and a pleasure to be back with you. Just like old times, man. It's been great. Always great to get to talk some shop with you. Always great to get to spend time with you and talk some wrestling. It's great. Before I sign off, I just want to say you can check out my work on WrestlingRumors.net, what I'm doing over there. You can also follow me on Twitter at Derek Stoughton. Again, it's just I don't tweet a whole lot. I just use it mostly for my what I'm doing with my business and music stuff.
Right.
You can also follow me on Instagram at Derico06. Josh, Brother Adam, it has been a pleasure, my friend.
I appreciate you, Brother Carter. You guys can follow me on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. I'm on Instagram at Joshie Lopez 94. That's JOSHIE Lopez 94. Also check me out at Josh Lopez Music if you want to hear me do some guitar covers. Bookmark Pro Wrestling Transcripts.com. If you enjoyed this show, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you want to get some feedback, leave us a 4 or 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps expand the reach of the show. And remember, folks, be the authentic product that is yourself. And I hope you guys enjoy Survivor Series this week. And for the nefarious Brother Adam, the nefarious Brother Carter, I am the nefarious Brother Adam.
There you go.
This has been the Podcast That Hoots, episode 232. Have a wonderful weekend. And don't forget, Inner Circle is trash. Talk to you guys next week.
Wear your masks.
Wear your mask.